it's Eric. Tonight we'll be continuing our series on rebuilding an engine. This is a Volkswagen 4-cylinder transverse mounted engine. This is something that came out of everything back from the 70s model Dashers all the way up through the Volkswagen Rabbits and then the Cabriolets and the Golfs, and I think they finally stopped using this sometime in the early to mid 90s. I think 93 is the last time I can remember seeing one of these installed. But they went through some changes. The original engine was a 1.5, then a 1.6, 1.7, 1.8. The 1.8, the GTI engine, that's what I'm playing with here. In fact, this is a 1983 Volkswagen GTI engine. If you watch the other parts of the videos, you saw me tear it down, you saw me clean it out, paint it, replace all the components that need to be replaced. We've got our short block built, right? That short block is this. It's the oil pan, the crankshaft, the cam and crank bearings, pistons, new rings, and everything is cleaned up and ready to go. What we're going to be doing tonight is half of the head job, right? We're going to be putting on our cylinder head and bolting that down with our cylinder head gasket. I do not have a camshaft yet, so we won't be setting up the timing belt or any of that stuff, but I will end the series up here with the head install, and then I've got a new water pump assembly we'll put on there if I can find the bolts for it. And that's it. So let's go ahead and get started to clean this surface. This surface needs to be checked and cleaned. It has been. I have purchased this. This is a brand new head kit. It's going to call with camshaft valve, valve cover components. Should have, yeah, it does have new valve stem seals, although I've already replaced those separately. And then down the bottom there is the head gasket. Let me go ahead and cut this open. We'll take those parts out and take a look at them. Also going to have our intake and exhaust manifold gaskets. Those are the intake ones. Looks like there's some variations. Here's our exhaust ones. And they're also going to have some, this is kind of a nice kit that I got here. This has some stuff for the lower exhaust manifold, the 4-into-2 kit, if that's what your engine comes with. The 75 through 80 models had the 4-into-2 header. Later ones had what they called the fishbowl style. Here's our exhaust gaskets, manifold gaskets in there. And there's a bunch of copper, or I'm sorry, just cloth gaskets or felt gaskets. Those are going to be for like our cooling jackets, things like that. All kinds of attachments that go on the front and rear of this. So this kit really comes with everything you're going to need. But the part we're going to need right now is this, and this is a cylinder head gasket. If you've ever seen a video back when I rebuilt that Yugo, I showed a video of what a burned out cylinder head gasket looks like. And usually the burn will be across one of these thin spots between the two jackets of the cylinders. They'll just overheat. It'll melt this and allows compression, coolant, everything you don't want moving back and forth between these two to move back and forth between these two. You'll also notice there are a bunch of holes, there's a bunch of stuff going on. You want to make sure you put this thing on the right way, and this is the right way, right like this. I'm going to slide that down. You'll see all your holes line up. This also has nice pins that hold this in place so it's not going to move around. Not all engines will have that feature. It's kind of nice that Volkswagen has that. I think Volvo used to have them. I don't know. Newer engines, sometimes you don't see those pins anymore. And let me go grab my cylinder head. Okay, and here we are with our cylinder head. As you can see, nicely cleaned. Here's where our spark plugs go. Here's our cooling jacket, or one of the ports here on the back, or that's the front actually. There's our camshaft. Is going to be sticking out of there. We're going to have a cam plug here, and you can see there is no camshaft in this currently. I'm still waiting on that. On the back side, nicely cleaned up here. These are our injector buckets. I'm going to be putting in new injector bucket seals. Intake and exhaust runners here. Okay, so fairly simple. These 8-valve iron block. I wish the world was still like this. Not fuel mileage wise, but just so much easier back in the day. Alright, so we're going to line this thing up and sit it on there. That looks about right. Beautiful. Okay, and then we have our cylinder head bolts. A lot of them. I'm going to clean those off. Start dropping them back in the holes here. And this is that weird socket. If you don't have a specialty socket, you'll have to order one for this. It is a, what did I do with mine? It's a star pattern. I think it's called a triple square. I think that's what Volkswagen and Audi call it. Now you don't want to oil these. These are just going to be going in these holes just the way they are. And oiling them would change the torque specs. And it's very important to follow manufacturer's torque on these. It's you mess this up and you got big problems. Head gasket failure. Although again, now this can actually be replaced without pulling the engine out. Replacing the head gaskets or even replacing a head is something that's easier when done on an engine stand, but certainly doable when done inside the car still. You can just pull the head off. I've had to do it many times over the years. In fact, that was the preferred way of doing head jobs back at the dealership before most of you watching this video were probably born. And there we go. Let me get my specialty socket and we'll get to tightening these down. All right. So installing these cylinder head bolts, these are also going to be torqued, and they're going to get torqued in stages. So the first torque spec, 29 foot-pounds. So let me bring it up here. There's 30, so 29 right there. Okay, and you're going to do this in a staging, but you're also going to do this in an interesting pattern here. So let me go ahead and do that. I'll get these locked down. Oops. And again, it's kind of like the oil pan. We're doing this in this strange pattern because we don't want the head to get warped as we tighten it down. Okay, there's 29. Next stage, 43. Okay, there's 43. Going to go through the same thing again. Okay, and the last step is kind of like the connecting rods or the crankshaft. We're going to do half a turn. Ooh, 180. Okay. 180 is all the way from here all the way to here. That's considerable. In fact, I don't know if I still have it, but I'd almost prefer to get my gauge. But I don't know if I've got that anymore. So let's try it like this. 180. That's 90. That's 180. And that, my friends, is that. It's installed. So what's left to do tonight? Not a ton. Not a ton. Camshaft seals, crankshaft seals, and then a whole lot of waiting. I'll probably continue part 4 here as part of the same video on another night. So I'll cut it right now, and you'll probably see me in a different outfit in a few seconds. Might be tough for y'all to see, but this area's been cleaned up pretty good. I'm going to take a little bit of silicone, just add it to this. Just wanted to make sure that even though this has a brand new O-ring, I'm putting this on here. It's just a little double layer here. I don't want this to leak. This is where our water pump assembly is going to go. Go ahead and slap that on there. And there, we're ready to install that. You can see I've got 4 new bolts there. And there's our brand new gasket. Go ahead and slide that on. Start those by hand. Make sure they're all started. And we can continue. In some ways, rebuilding an engine is actually fairly simple when it's an older style engine like this. But in a lot of ways, like how many pieces there are to this puzzle may seem not to have too many pieces, and that's a good thing. The bad news is it only takes messing up a single piece of this puzzle, and of course you won't realize it until after you've spent many hours installing it, before you realize that something has in fact gone very, very wrong. Most of the time, you will find out if something has gone horribly wrong within the first 50 miles. In fact, many times it'll happen on startup, but it's not a guarantee. Alright, there's our new water pump assembly. Now you can get a separate water pump, just this portion here. In fact, the kit that I bought comes with gaskets for that. But I figured I'd just go ahead and get the whole assembly. Thermostat housing will live down here, and our cooling hoses come off the back. Wow, we are definitely getting there. I'm going to go ahead and rotate it around. I'll show you installing these last 3 gaskets that I have. The rear main seal, I'll have to wait until I get it off of the stand to do. And then it's the waiting game again. All right, cool thing about these, actually I can't even put that one in there. Cool thing about the gaskets here, Volkswagen was pretty slick on this idea here. 1, 2, and 3, they're all exactly the same on the front. So if you have one seal go bad, it's very common to find these seals because, well, they're very common. So what I like to do here, if you see up close, the spring here, there's a spring in there. And occasionally you'll have a spring failure or a lip that rolls. Over the years I have found that if you take grease and just grease the inside of this and then grease this lip, that helps it slide over the shafts that you're going to have to slide these into, right, to get them in there. And then what I do to get these hammered in properly is I like to find a socket that's roughly that size. Now you can get cam seal and crank seal installer tools, specific tools, but a lot of guys, they won't have the exact tool for that. So I'll show you what I come up with here in a sec. Okay, in this sense I've got this. This is roughly the right size. I'm going to be hammering that on like so. I'll just tap that in, or sometimes, a lot of times, you just push it in. So again, I'm going to grease this section here. Oh, I'll slide it in there nicely. I don't even need to. Won't even need to hammer that. That one slid right in there, and you can see that. That's going in there beautifully. You're looking, and I'll take a magnifying glass to make sure the lip didn't roll, but as easy as that went in, I would say it's highly unlikely that I have a damaged seal there. But what can happen, that seal can roll back and doesn't make good contact here, and you'll end up with a leak. Probably, usually takes not all that long before the leak appears, if that's going to be the case. But in this sense, that one went really well, so I don't have any worries. So I'll do this one, and this one again, we'll wait till our camshaft arrives. I got a G-grind cam coming for it, and so that's as far as we'll take it today. Again, this is going in very, very nicely. It's nice when everything is clean and new. Beautiful. Very nice. Okay, so that's that. All right. Honestly, that's as far as we can take it today. Let me go ahead and back the camera out, and we'll wrap this up for today. So that's it for today. I mean, it's not that hard to get this stuff back together again, but you want to take your time and do it right. In part 5, we'll be finishing the process. I'll put the camshaft in. I'll show you how to adjust valves, manually adjusted valves, and then we'll put our timing belt back on, and that's really the end of building the long block. After that, it's a matter of taking the engine out of the other car and swapping over those components that I took apart in part 1, which was undressing the engine. Well, we're going to be redressing it. And to be honest with you, I'm not positive that I'm going to film that or that I'm going to film the installation, but I'm certainly going to show those parts after the fact, like show the finished product. If you like this video, perhaps you'll think about liking and subscribing. I'll see you next time.